welcome to the Fallen State. I'm Jesse Lee Peterson. Thank you all so much for being with me. I do appreciate it. Don't forget to support the Fallen State by going to TheFallenState.tv/donate. And also you can help us out by clicking the link in the description, go to locals.com. Thank you all in advance. I do appreciate it. I have with me Leslie and Lindsey Glass. They are a mother and daughter duo who co-founded Reach Out Recovery, a nonprofit organization focused on recovery, wellness, and relationships. They joined us today to discuss their brand new book, The Mother-Daughter Relationship Makeover, 4 Steps to Bring Back the Love. This should be interesting. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much for coming. I like the title of the book, so I really want to get into that. But let me talk to you first, Leslie. You've been, I guess, writing and doing film for a while now, right?
Yes, for a long time.
And what made you decide, have you always written about mother and daughters and love and making a relationship work?
No, I was a mystery writer for a lot of years. I had a mystery series called the Sergeant April Wu NYPD New York Times bestselling mystery series.
Right.
And I wrote about drug addiction and alcoholism from a law enforcement point of view, and I basically got paid for killing people for a living. But when my kids were in their teenage years and they were perfecting their addictions, I became more interested in helping people than killing them, keeping them alive than killing them. So
that's right. Oh, amazing.
So my mystery career morphed into a career for helping people.
And so what's important to you now?
The most important thing for me now is to help people understand about family relationships, mother-daughter, mother-son, all kinds of family relationships, and to do addiction prevention. Helping our teens is very important to me.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Lindsey.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, Liz. I'm black.
We did this to everybody. Nobody can get it right. Nobody.
Yeah, it's not you, it's us. We promise.
It's us. We did it.
So, Lindsey, how did you get involved with writing and working directly with your mother?
It was an accident. No, just kidding. Well, I think what's interesting is when you have a successful author for a mom, it can be, I just didn't really know how hard it was to do until I actually started writing myself.
Right.
So I think I wanted to follow in her footsteps.
And so, what's important to you?
So I'm a person in long-term recovery. So my life was really very disturbed by my alcoholism, my addiction, the alcoholism and addiction of some people around me, including friends. So a huge part of my life and my passion is helping people not only get sober and stay sober, but find a thriving life in recovery.
Yeah.
That's what's important to me. Because if you get sober, but you don't know how to communicate or have good relationships, or you can't get a job, life is going to be just as difficult, but you won't have your coping mechanism.
I understand. And so, are you a Christian?
I am by birth Jewish, but I am a practicing Buddhist.
Oh, yeah? I never heard of a Jewish being a Buddhist.
It's called Jew booze.
Are you serious?
I'm totally serious.
Totally serious.
I didn't know you were Jewish. You look white. That's why I asked you if you were a Christian.
So we are of the Ashkenazi Jewish line. So we come from Eastern Europe, Russia, Hungary, Germany. That's our background.
And so why did you decide to become a Buddhist rather than a Jewish?
It had a lot to do with addiction recovery. They wanted me to meditate and do all of these wellness techniques that I was struggling with. And I became the kind of Buddhist that chants. I met somebody who was a Buddhist, and she became a bit of a mentor to me and taught me how to chant. So I found that while I struggled with the meditation piece, I was good at chanting. I'm one of the Tina Turner Buddhists. We do the
Oh,
Renge Kyos.
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, we love Tina.
Where's Tina now?
I know.
Heaven.
She
She's in
did.
heaven singing for us up there.
Yes, she is.
So when you heard that your daughter, are you a Buddhist too, Leslie?
Well, I practice, but I'm not an official Buddhist.
And why do you practice?
I practice because I do want to talk to you about religion sometime, but maybe not right now. But so I was raised. I went to a Presbyterian school, and I went to an ethical culture school, which is kind of Unitarian. And so those who get into Buddhism, it's like being in a gospel church where you're singing and it raises your spirits and it makes you feel wonderful and at one. That's what a great gospel church is all about. That is what it is for Lindsey and me, that what Buddhism is. So the chanting is kind of like gospel music for us. Would you say
Amazing.
that?
Yeah, it raises your vibration. And I think that the philosophy of Buddhism, it's very close to 12-step and recovery. It's all about, doing unto others, being accountable, helping people get better.
Being
okay.
kind.
You said something like you were a long-term addiction or something?
Yes.
How did you put that?
How did I get through it?
You say you're long-term recovery.
Yeah, I'm a recovering alcoholic.
And what does that mean? What does that mean exactly? Are you recovering alcoholic?
It means that I put down drugs and alcohol a long time ago, and I'm totally sober, and I practice a program of recovery that includes, personally, I go to 12-step. So I am, part of 12-step groups. And, there are different ways to talk about it and different ways to say it. Most people don't like us to say I'm recovered, because you don't really recover
Why
from
not?
alcoholism.
Why don't you really recover and be done with it?
Because I think if I wasn't actively treating it by going to meetings, I would be tempted to drink again.
So let's say that we're at a wedding.
Yes.
And we ran out of wine. And someone asked me, Jesse, make some more wine. So I turned the water into wine. You wouldn't drink any?
No. Nope.
Why not? Jesus
All right,
made the wine.
I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you a question.
Uh-oh.
I'm not going to ask you the question. I'm going to ask Jesse the question. So the difference between people who have an addiction and the people who are drinking in a healthy way is that people who are drinking in a healthy way have a stop button. And there's a place in their head where they say, I've had enough, and they don't drink anymore. But people who have an addiction problem, whether it's drugs or alcohol or shopping or gambling or whatever it is, digital addiction, they have no stop button. They can't stop. So if you wanted to, if
I drank that wine, I might end up in Mexico using narcotics by the end of the night.
Wow. Do you believe in God?
Yes.
Yes.
And do you believe that God can heal us completely?
I think there's, faith without works is dead. I think you have to have the faith, but you also have to do the work. So I know that my personality is challenged. And if enough things happen that put pressure on me, I'm capable of making bad decisions.
I like the fact that you and your mother write about this, because it definitely brings the attention to the issue. What started you in drinking and drugs? How did you get started, and why?
I got started in my teen years as a result of dealing with a bunch of deaths. My grandfather died, and then I lost 2 friends consecutively. So there was I would say, a significant amount of trauma. We came from a big drinking culture. It was New York City in the
Oh,
80s and the 90s. There was a lot of alcohol, there was a lot of drugs. It was the culture. A lot of people were doing it. And I think I got it. I certainly, I don't want to say I got involved with the bad crowd. I was the bad crowd.
yeah, yeah.
So I found people that were like me who wanted to get into trouble. And it was, at the time, it was a relief because I was so sad. I was a sad kid. So I was turning to something to make me, at the beginning, feel better.
I understand. And Leslie, how did you find out that your daughter was drinking and doing drugs? And were you surprised?
My daughter was not doing well. So I kept thinking she's sick. She's got a food disorder. She's taking her to the doctor to try and figure out what was wrong. I knew there was something wrong, but I didn't know that she was going out and going to clubs all night long, because she'd say to me, I'm going over to so-and-so's house and we're going to watch movies. This is what girls do today. I mean, it's not. And so she would go to a friend's house and where there were no parents, and they would go out drinking and clubbing. And Lindsey,
You suspected, but you didn't know.
well, I wasn't, there are many different kinds of mothers, and we can talk about what kind of mothering we all had. My mother pretty much left me to my own devices because she knew I wasn't going to do anything bad. And I lived in a place where I couldn't get to clubs anyway. So,
So were you disappointed when you found out? How did you react when you found out what she was doing?
when she finally told me, and it's in our book, when she finally told me and came clean and said, I need help, I was relieved, because when I knew what was wrong, I knew that we could get the tools to help her.
Amazing.
So basically, parents need to know, and kids need to be not afraid to tell their parents what's happening.
And so, Lindsey, how did your father react to it when he found out?
The same. They were both so relieved that there was finally an answer to what was going on with me. So they were really great. And part of the reason I mentor people in teens and people in programs is we get into this place where we don't want to tell the truth because we think people are going to be mad at us.
Yeah.
But the people who love us, generally, they might be disappointed for a moment or two, but they're going to get right on board and figure out how to help you get better.
That's right. Who were you closest to growing up, your father or your mother?
My mother.
I'm sorry?
My mother.
And why was that?
We used to joke. The initial version of this book was called, what was it called? Separated at Birth? Connected
Yes,
at Birth?
separated at birth, something like that.
My mom writes about it in the book. She lost her mom young, and there were not a lot of female relatives around us. So it was really me and my mom a lot of the time. I have an older brother. He's wonderful, but he's skipped a grade. He was off in college. He had moved to Baltimore by the time I was a teenager. So I just spent a lot more time with my mom. My mom was home writing when she was home. And we were very close from the beginning. And again, a big point of the book was to talk about how you can love someone and be very close, but get into this habit of fighting with them.
Yeah. And Leslie, were you closer to your mother or your father growing up?
My mother.
And why not your father?
Well, my father was off doing his own thing. He was not as involved. And my mother was a social activist, and she was very busy trying to make the world a better place. And I was very close to her.
And did you become like your mother?
I didn't want to become like my mother. My mother was a freedom rider. She was not afraid. She was not afraid. And I just wanted to be a famous author. That's all. I didn't want to be involved in social issues because I was fearful.
So why did you become like her if you didn't want to?
Well, this is where we talk about generations. We talk about generational, what you are, what's in your soul, what you come from. So my mother wanted to help people, for me to end up helping people, helping women in prison. It just, I don't even know how to explain it, but it's part of my writing plays for inner city kids in New York where they'd never even seen a white person. It was just part of what I was doing in the 80s and 90s. And then Lindsey didn't want to be like her mother either, I don't think. And you've turned out to be, right down the line, the same kind of work.
Yeah.
And so, Lindsey, you didn't want to become like your mother?
No.
And why not?
I thought she, how do I answer this question safely? No, why didn't I want to become her? I just thought, well, I don't want to be a writer and I don't want to do, she was always doing things, gardening and cooking and making things beautiful. And, I was like a goth club kid. We couldn't have been more different. So it was more about not that I didn't respect who she was and what she was doing. It was more like, that's not for me.
Yeah.
But as I got older, I started doing things that I really thought would get her approval. And the more I started doing those things, the more I started to like them. And I had exactly the same experience. I did not think being a social activist was going to be in my future. But when I was getting sober, there was a guy, he was a former Marine. He has an organization on the East Coast, recovery. And he would bring me in and he would bring me in to speak in 6 prisons in 2 days. And he taught me how to be a recovery advocate. And who knew that I would have that same experience of feeling kind of like, oh, I'm in my place. I know it sounds crazy, but I taught at Homeboy Industries last year for 10 months. And when I walked in, they were like, we don't know how this is going to go. And when I left, it was like hugs all around.
Yeah.
I mean,
and they called me mama.
I brought my mom. You should see the pictures. They hugged her.
Amazing. And so, Lindsey, what is it like being your mother now rather than being you? What is that like?
Well, I think the good news is I followed a path that allowed me to flourish. I think left to my own devices, who knows what would have happened. I think she really did create a model, a role model, that I wanted to follow. And you know what? It feels great. I love it. I love that we wrote a book together.
Who is Lindsey?
Oh,
who is Lindsey? Wow.
She's my better half. My mom was good. I was okay, but she's awesome.
Well,
I would say this.
I want to hear from Lindsey. Who is Lindsey?
Lindsey is a reformed wild child who has really found herself being of service to the world in meaningful ways. Lindsey is somebody that really needs to give back and focus on doing things that are really good for humankind. Yeah.
No, go ahead. You what?
No, I would say, our music tastes are different. Our clothing tastes are different. I think I certainly have my own style and way of being in the world. So I don't think it's an exact copy.
And who is Leslie? Who are you, Leslie? Tell me who are you?
I lost myself when I lost my daughter. So, and I think this happens to a lot of moms who have lost their children to violence or addiction or any kind of loss. When you lose your child, your joy in life, whatever it is that you loved. And I loved cooking, I loved gardening, I loved playing music. I play the piano. When I lost my daughter and she left me, she went off to find herself. She left, where I lived, and I didn't speak to her for 4 years. She didn't speak to me. And what you're asking is, who is Leslie? I had to discover who I am. So without my daughter.
Who are you?
Well, I'm Leslie? I'm very creative. I'm very creative, and I'm very driven to figure things out. I'm very curious, and I want to, try and figure things out. I want to help people. And I love writing, and I'm never going to stop writing, no matter how old I get. So I think that writing this book with my daughter gave us an opportunity to go back into the past, all the way 100 years back, and talk about how women develop over the ages from their mothers and their grandmothers, and how do they become who they are. Because I'm like my mother in many ways, but completely different from her in other ways. So
you told me what you do, but you didn't tell me who you are.
wow, I'm a mother.
You still tell me what you do.
Well, Jesse, you're asking me a hard question. What am I? What am I? I'm a female. I identify as a female.
And
What am I? I mean, I think of myself as a good person. I mean, I don't even know how to answer that question.
You say you think of yourself as a good person?
Yes.
And what's good about you?
I think my desire to help other people and to be of service is what makes me a good person.
And how does that make you a good person?
Well, I'm not only thinking about myself, I'm thinking about others. I'm thinking about how I can be helpful. And I think kindness is very important. And I try to be a role model for the people around me, both in Rotary and in my community.
And I'd add
Lindsey,
something.
you didn't tell me who you were. You told me who you are. You didn't tell me you told me what you do. You didn't tell me who you are. Who are you?
Don't put us on the spot or anything.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I think I'm a loving, compassionate person. I think that is absolutely true.
So
And
you think you are a lover, or that's what you do?
No, I think I am.
And what's loving and compassion? What's loving and compassion about you?
I think I'm a great friend, and I've been, in recent years, a good daughter. I think that my creativity and my feelings about recovery. I mean, when I think about, if somebody said, "Who are you?" I would be like, I'm a sober woman, living a dignified life today. And what does that include? It includes living true to myself, being really clear about my recovery, because who am I? I'm also a recovering alcoholic.
Amazing.
And that's yeah.
And so you say you are a loving woman. Where do you get the love from to be loving?
Oh, I think that comes from mom.
And where does she get her love from to be loving?
I think that comes from her mom. And
Really?
I would also say, she said that her mom was fearless. She's fearless too. And I think I can be pretty fearless as well.
Amazing. And
I would say, I would add this, whether it's what we do or who we are, she got it from her mom. I got it from her. We're ambitious. We want to change the world, and we want to be connected to other people while we're doing it. So
you want to change the world from what to what?
Oh, we just want people to be kinder, more compassionate. We'd like to see some changes in the criminal justice system. We'd like to see some laws around people in recovery and people who have been incarcerated have a better time. So a big part of my business is I'm teaching now at A New Way of Life. I work with women who have been in jail, some for 40 years, and they're coming out and they haven't seen a phone, much less been inside a Costco.
That's amazing.
So,
I know. I'm working with a guy that he's been in prison for a long time. He just got out recently, and he had never seen a cell phone. He doesn't even know how to use the cell. I'm like, what? And he black. He black.
Yeah.
And he's like, he didn't know how to use the cell phone.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So let me ask. I'll ask Leslie first. Leslie, did you forgive your mother for turning you away from your father?
My mother?
Yeah, did you forgive your mother for turning you away from your father?
She didn't turn me away from my father.
What turned you away from your father?
I never turned away from my father. I was always very close to my father his whole life.
And would he help you deal with your mother as you were growing up?
No. But this is what I would say about men in those days. My father did not raise me to be an independent working woman. He raised me to get married and have a good family. And so I did not, I was rebellious in the sense that I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be independent. I wanted to, manage my own life. And I think he was very old school in that sense. And every time I wrote something or did something new, he said, we have to stop this right now. But,
amazing. And Leslie, did you forgive your mother for turning you away from your father?
I forgive everybody. You,
hold
Lindsey,
on.
sorry, you.
Me.
Yeah, I'm talking about Lindsey.
Of course. And I don't,
You forgave your mother for turning you away from your father?
I don't think she really turned me away from him. I don't think it was that clear cut. I think we did have a tumultuous family situation. But my father and I have reconciled on our own over the years. I mean, my issues with my dad, and I love my dad.
But let me ask you this first, and I do want to get to the father. When you were growing up and your mother would impose her will on you as a kid, and you would ask your father to help you deal with that, would he come in and help you deal with it?
God, I don't remember.
You don't remember? You don't remember if he did or if you asked?
I don't remember if I asked.
Why not?
Because I used a lot of drugs.
I know, but before you became a drug addict, you were angry at your mother and you tried to escape. But when you were asking your father to help you deal with the hell in your mother, would he help you?
Yeah, I think he tried. I think he tried to do his best.
By doing what? For those other people, by doing what? How would he help you deal with the mother?
I guess like trying to talk to both of us, but I wouldn't want to get between us if I were somebody. So I think
what do you mean by that? What do you mean?
We're both big, powerful personalities when we want to be. I wouldn't really want to get caught between us.
So you don't think your father could have handled it?
No.
What? But the role of the father is to stand between the mother and the children so that the mother doesn't recreate the children her image.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, he missed that class.
Have you forgiven him for that?
Of course.
You told him?
I've forgiven him for everything. We did some therapy together.
And did you tell him, I forgive you for not protecting me from my mother?
I told him I forgave him for the things that went on between us when I was growing up.
Do you have anger?
No.
You have no anger now?
No.
How did you overcome it?
Therapy, 12-step programs, time, healing, prayer.
So you forgave your mother?
Oh, of course.
And Leslie, do you have anger, Leslie?
No.
You forgave your mother?
I've forgiven everybody, yes.
And did you tell your mother?
Well, my mother died and I wasn't able to, she was in a cancer hospital for 2 years and I was with her every single day and I sang with her and I prayed with her and, but no, we did not have those deep conversations, unfortunately. She was unable to talk to me.
But Lindsey, you had that with both parents?
Yes.
And how are things with you and your father now?
And sorry?
How is you and your father relationship?
It's great. It's great.
Nice.
Because part of recovery is accepting people for who they are.
Yeah.
And listen, my dad grew up in Houston, Texas in the 40s and 50s. It was a different time. He was from a different generation. They did not teach you to be warm and fuzzy in those days if you were, a man. Those
were the good old days.
Oh, I don't know about that, but yeah, it was certainly a different time.
It was an amazing time.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
shirt. Come on, I ain't the children of the lot. Let's go. Come on, one shirt.
Jesse! Jesse!
What in the world going on out here?
All these people are here for the merch, but we're sold out.
They're here for the merch?
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's amazing. The merch is amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
The merch is amazing.
So both of you never get angry at all now.
No, we get angry all the time. But the whole point of the book is to learn about what to do when you're angry. Like, we're still going to trigger each other. Money, what we're wearing, food. We're not going to fight about what we're going to say in the interview. We're going to get in an argument before the interview because she wants me to wear pink and she's wearing blue. And now we're in an argument because we look like Easter eggs and I don't want to look like Easter eggs. But we have tools. So we look at each other and say, hey, let's take a step back. You know, let's talk about this later. There are definitely moments when we're working and things get heated. And I say, let's take a break. And we both know, yeah.
Why don't you overcome anger, period? So nothing, no situation, no matter what, you can never get angry if you don't have the spirit of anger inside of you. Why not let it all go, period?
I'm trying. I'm chanting for it.
But chanting's not going to do it.
What's going to do it?
I'll tell you that in a minute. Good question.
Okay.
Leslie, why don't you overcome the spirit of anger so nothing on earth can ever make you angry, no situation at all, because the spirit of anger is evil and it separates you from God. Why not overcome the spirit of anger completely?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that, because generally speaking, if I'm left to my own devices, I really do not have any anger. But there is societal anger that I have. There are things that are happening in the world that make me upset. So I think anger and aggression are evil, but I don't think they're in me. You know, I do.
But if you get angry, the anger is inside of you. It's not out there. It's inside of you. And you're overreacting to the situation, to the world. Why not get rid of the spirit of anger and have a clear mind?
Well, do you feel that you have gotten rid of all anger?
100%. In 30-something years, I never experienced anger.
Wow. Wow.
Amazing.
Well, is that faith? Is that faith-based?
Yeah, it's faith-based.
I don't know what that means.
Oh,
Yeah.
like, do you have a very strong belief in God? And
No, well, what happened was I still go to church, but go to church, I would pray to the Lord, I would give tithes and offerings, do what the preachers say, but the spirit of anger was never taken away from me. So I finally, long story short, I finally asked God, I'm doing everything they say to do in the church, but I still have the spirit of anger. I asked him to let me see. Why is it that I still feel I'm emotional? You know, I have all these thoughts and up and down emotions, feel good, feel bad, right? And he allowed me to see I resented my mother, who tried to turn me away from my father, because mothers are jealous of kids and father's relationship. All mothers, there's not one that's not. And so they secretly turn the children away from the father. And when they turn the children away from the father, they recreate them in her image, which is evil. But they can't help it because they have not forgiven their mothers. And so when I realized that my mother had tried to turn me away from my father, I forgave her. She couldn't help it because I had the same thoughts and feelings that my mother had. Up and down, I wasn't myself. And I realized she couldn't help it. And I forgave her, and God forgave me. And he turned me back to my father, because God said that all must be born of the father. Those who are born of the mother must be born again, which is the spirit of the father. Otherwise, you're going to live and die in hell. So I forgave my mother, and when I forgave her, God forgave me, and everything changed.
wow, that's a beautiful story.
Beautiful story.
You got to forgive your mothers so that you can become yourself. You're not yourself. You are your mother, and you're never going to have peace until you become you. You're not your job. You're not your thoughts. You're not your emotions. You're not all this other stuff. Those are things you do to escape, but it's not who you are.
Okay. Knowing this, I can better answer a few of your questions if you'll let me go back. And I would say this. That is incredibly interesting. I mean, wow, what an experience. And I really understand and relate to what you're saying. And when we had our split, when I was in my early 30s or whatever it was, and I felt that I didn't know who I was. All I did was things that I thought my mother wanted me to do.
Yeah.
And we were fighting like cats and dogs. And you're on the money. I was enmeshed. And when I left and moved to California and we didn't speak for 4 years, it was because I was advised, and I think correctly, that I needed to go out, live on my own, earn my own money, earn my own keep, and see who Lindsey was without Leslie. And it was in those 4 years. And that first year, I was so angry. It was a mixture of being close to suicide. I was so depressed. And just rage at everything that had happened. I was just enraged. But here's what happened. I went on a journey and I got help. I got professional help. I got spiritual help. I took years to, kind of pray out that anger. And when I woke up one day, I really wasn't angry anymore. And I'm really not angry at her anymore. And I think that what I would say is, who is Lindsey? Lindsey is a copy of Leslie, but Lindsey went out into the world and figured out, who she is without Leslie and what she had to offer the world without Leslie. And had I not separated from her, I never would have understood. I'm a strong woman too. I'm an independent woman too. I can be self-supporting and all of these things. I'm okay without my mommy. I didn't think I was going to be okay without my mommy.
Yeah.
So now, am I a bit of a copy? I am, but I think in all the good ways and in all of the bad ways that we've both worked out. I like to say we've taken most of the evil out. And what I had someone say to me once, you have a little more digging to do. And I just think when you've had, in our family, we did have 30 years of turmoil.
Yeah.
So
all families have that.
Yeah.
All, it doesn't matter the color. Every human being resent their mothers. There's not one. It doesn't matter how poor you are, how rich you are, where you live, whatever. Every human being hate their mothers because the mother imposed her will on them, and they only have hatred in their heart. They don't have love, and they recreate the kids in their image, so you become like what you hate. And that's why God said we must be born again. And there's never anyone that has anger is a murderer. Anyone that, according to God, anyone that has anger cannot be trusted. Anyone that has anger is your enemy. You must overcome anger. There's never, ever, ever a reason, any situation where you should be angry. And if you can see that you have it and stop identifying with it, it'll be taken away from you. And long story short, what happens is when you're a kid, you're innocent. You're subject to your family. You're subject to the world because you're being taught. And most kids are being taught wrong. And you become like what you hate. And so here you are as a kid, every human being, men and women, boys and girls. And when you're traumatized with anger, you escape into your imagination, into your thoughts. And all thoughts are all lies all the time about anything. They build you up, then you're feeling good. They let you down, now you're feeling angry. They build you up, you're feeling good. Then they let you down. And then next thing you want to commit suicide because you're up and down emotionally. But when you forgive, because the devil lives in the imagination, all thoughts are evil except for practical thought. And he's controlling you. You don't realize that the voice of the devil and the emotions of the devil controlling you. So you're living in here. But when you forgive your parents, and by the way, you're not an alcoholic. You never have been. You've never been a drug addict. That's what you did, living in the dark world to try to feel better. And you only did that because you wanted to feel better. You had this anger. But when you forgive, God is going to bring you out of the darkness of the imagination and emotion, and he'll take all the darkness away by allowing you to see that you're not the darkness. You're not evil. You're none of those things. It's just you identify with it when you were angry. But you got to realize, hey, I am angry, I'm wrong for judging, and then when the judge play God, and until you realize that, he's never going to bring you all the way out of it, but he will when you see that you're wrong for being angry. You're not an alcoholic. Don't ever let them tell you to say that, because you're justified by your words and you're condemned by them. You're not an alcoholic. You're not a cook. You're not a mother. You're not a writer. You're none of those things. Those are false identities. Those are the things that you do, but that's not who you are. What do you think about that?
Listen, first of all, I think what you were talking about before, you hit the nail on the head what we did with the book.
Yes.
Because the whole book is a process of stop pointing the finger.
Yes.
Take a look at yourself. Figure out who you are, what your personality style is, what your communication style is, and start to understand what trauma, what triggers have happened here, and how you're interacting with each other. Sorry?
And your mother too. And what happened to your mother too.
But I just, I want to make the point, a lot of what he said was exactly what we did, which is stop with the rage, look at yourself, figure out how to forgive and heal, and then create a spiritual life that is now appropriate for somebody that is reformed from who this person was when you started, that was just saying, I hate her, she's crazy. I hate her, she's crazy. Like, that's what we want to stop. And we want to not only stop it, but help people be able to think about themselves differently. And you make an interesting point with the alcoholic stuff. What we say is
stop saying you're a recovered alcoholic. No, you're not. That's what you did because you were angry and you were lost in darkness. The problem was never the drug and the alcohol. The problem has always been the anger. There's cause and effect. You drop the anger, all those vices would disappear as well.
Yes, working on it.
Leslie, what do you think about what I've said?
Well, I think a lot of what you said is right on. I think about the emotions going up and down and the voices in your head and the way we self-identify is absolutely true. And I think that that we all have enormous conflicts with our mother. And I think
every human being does.
Yes, and I think you're right. And part of it is because your mom, as you're growing up, your mom is trying to, in the early years, she's trying to feed you and get you to school and trying to control you in ways that, as you're trying to get your independence, your mom is trying to, get you to behave the way she wants you to behave.
And you know why she does that, right? It's not because she loves you. It's because she's evil. And she's trying to make the world rotate around her. She wants you to worship her, especially not your father. So she's doing it not out of love, but out of hate. She imposed her will on you. I'm sorry?
Jesse, do you think that's true with absolutely every mother?
100% until they start to overcome it by forgiving their mothers and forgiving their father for not protecting them from the mothers. Because women, the mothers recreate the children, the boys and the girls, in her image. But at some point, as Leslie was saying, you got to realize, yes, my mother was wrong, but I'm wrong for resenting her because I become just like her. I think like her, I act like her, I overreact like her, I get mad like her. You become like your mother. But when you realize, wow, I can't help myself, something is controlling me and it's not me. My mother must have had the same issue. And when you realize you couldn't help yourself, it will cause you to realize your mother couldn't help herself. And you will go to her, hey, mother, I'm sorry for resenting you. I realize you couldn't help yourself now. And at that very moment, God will forgive you. Never ask for forgiveness because human beings don't forgive. They can't do that. You apologize for being angry, and God will forgive you because anyone that has anger is playing God, right? And God will forgive you, but your mother is never going to forgive you, because she loves the control that she has. But God will forgive you, and he will change your nature, give you back your identity you had before you became your mother. You should say, I'm sorry. Forgiveness is admitting that I'm wrong for being angry at you. It's not It's not saying, oh, I'm sorry for this or that, because you can't help yourself. But when you admit, I'm wrong for being angry at you, God will forgive you, and then he'll allow you to enter into the kingdom of heaven, and you can have paradise on earth. You don't have to wait until you die. You can have perfect peace right here on earth because you would be yourself and you would be one with God. It would be amazing. And you would love everybody, no matter what the color or whatever. You would love even your enemy because you won't hate them. You won't be angry. Isn't that amazing?
I think we're saving society with our book.
So what now?
I said, I think we're saving society with our book because we're getting people to look at their mothers and their relationships and get real honest about what happened.
Yeah, mothers don't have love. They only have hate. The love comes from God, through Christ, through the Father, to the children. But that stuff that's coming up from the mother is coming straight out of hell. It's all evil.
Well, I would say this to that. In our family, we all did the work that, you know, I'm sure my mom today loves me. That I am 100% sure of.
Why are you so sure?
Because I can feel it. She supports me in all the right ways. And, you know, when you're loved and understood, you can feel it.
Why do you think mothers destroy relationship between her daughter and her boyfriend or husband?
Why do I think mothers, what was that?
Why do you think they destroy the relationship with the girl's boyfriend and or husband?
You know, my view on that stuff is that mothers feel that daughters are a reflection of them. So if they don't like the boyfriend or the partner, there's a real reason to get involved. But again, that wasn't something, so I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I've seen it. With my mom, I didn't experience that. She was pretty supportive of the partners until their reason.
The mother hated the relationship with the daughter, her boyfriend, in the same way she hated the relationship with the daughter and the father. She want everything to rotate around her ego. She want the world to rotate around her. So anyone that get between that, she would destroy them. And then wherever the daughter moved, the mother want to go live with them. And let's say you grow up and your mother's like, I don't like West Hell. West Hell is an awful place to live, right? And then you grow up and you say, well, I'm going to West Hell to live. I like West Hell. And all of a sudden the mother's like, oh, I like West Hell too. I think I want to get West Hell try. And what she want to do is stay with you so she can destroy the relationship between any man you get involved with.
Mothers sound very unhealthy from your point of view.
It's evil. But the mother can't help it. That's why they have to overcome evil by forgiving their mothers and returning to the Father. Meaning drop the anger and you return to the Father, you will have perfect peace. And then the mothers or the daughters or the sons or the daddies won't be that way anymore. But you got to overcome evil by admitting you're wrong for having anger. Anger is evil, and there's never a reason to be angry. But I got to move on because this book is so interesting. I have a few more questions.
Okay.
Leslie, anybody want to respond to what I just said?
I don't even know how.
Amazing. How about amen?
Amen.
Leslie, did you obey you're still married, right?
No.
Where's your husband?
He's in a retirement home right now.
Oh, I see. Did you obey your husband?
Yes, I did.
Nice. How about you, Lindsey? Are you married, Lindsey?
No.
Have you ever dated?
Yes.
Did you obey your boyfriends?
Sometimes not.
Why not all the time?
Sometimes I didn't think what they wanted was right.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. What is love?
I think love is when you are considering someone else's needs as well as your own, and you want to support somebody and care for them, but that doesn't just come at a convenient rate. really loving someone is taking care of them when it's inconvenient and being there to support them in things when you may not totally agree with what they're doing.
Leslie, what is love?
I think love exists without any other human around. Love is that feeling that you have when you're outside and you're feeling nature, and love is something that's kind of like everywhere. It has to do with you and your relationships with people, but it also has to do with your relationships with nature and with God, and it's a huge. It's kind of like everything.
Do you
It
have
can overwhelm
perfect?
you when you wake up in the morning.
Do you have perfect peace,
Most
Leslie?
of the time, yeah, I do.
You have perfect peace.
Most of the time.
I work on, I pray every day for it.
Do you have it now?
Today I do.
But do you have perfect peace?
Not all the time.
And why not all the time?
I still have anxieties and fears about the way things are going to work out, or if everyone's going to be okay. It's more like that.
I know both of you, I recommend. I have a silent prayer. I want you to give it a try. Do your little chanting.
Okay.
And when you're doing that, you hang out road and chatting. I want you to be still and know God and allow God to just take over completely, and He'll guide your life rather than the darkness of the imagination. So do your little chanting, and when you're done, I want you to go to rebuildingaman.com/prayer and do the silent prayer so God can completely take over and defeat the darkness of the imagination. He'll take it completely away from you, and He will give you perfect peace. He sent His Son that we might have perfect peace, not anxiety, not sometimes. He wants you to have it all the time right here on earth, and you can, but you got to come out of the imagination. So give it a try. Let me know what both of you think about it, all right?
You
All
will.
right.
Are you guys into politics at all?
I'm not so much. Les, you?
Am I into what?
Politics?
Are you
No.
like liberal, conservative? Do you vote and all that kind of stuff?
Moderate.
We vote.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
of course we vote.
I consider myself a moderate.
A moderate?
Yes.
And what is a moderate?
I think we've gone a little far to the right on the right side and a little far to the left on the left side.
I agree.
I have a mix of, both conservative and liberal views. I have some liberal ideas about social issues. But, I also, I don't think we're in a great place with politics in this
Nope.
country.
It's
So
worse than I ever seen. I didn't know it
it's
could get this
troubling.
bad.
Yeah, it's so troubling.
Yeah.
So, and what I would just say about when we talk about politics, we're looking at it from the self-help point of view. So we try and go pretty nonpartisan with this stuff because people are people.
Yeah. How about you, Leslie? Are you conservative, liberal, or moderate?
Well, I lean a little bit to the left, but
To the left, to the left.
I lean a little bit to the left.
And why?
What?
And why? Why?
Because I think that the right in politics, as we are right now, are not interested in helping the lesser served populations, and I think the left is a little more interested in that. However, I don't think that any group is really good at doing the kind of changes that we need to make society equitable for everybody.
Well, that's apparent. You're absolutely right. Are you going to be voting for the Great White Hope?
I don't know what the Great White Hope is.
How about you, Lindsay?
What's the Great White Hope?
You guys don't know the Great White Hope?
No.
Do you live in America?
Yes.
The Great White Hope is Donald Trump.
Oh, I didn't know that's what they were calling him. I grew up
What
with
I
his
call him.
Oh. We haven't decided yet what we're doing.
No.
Well, don't
We're
tell
going to
anyone.
wait till the last minute.
Well, don't tell anyone. But when you go into the booth to vote,
Yes.
Great White Hope.
Okay.
Good to know.
One last thing, then I got to put you on the hot seat.
Okay.
Do you believe that racism exists?
Yes,
Yeah.
of course.
And why do you believe that?
For some reason, some people think that they're better than other people with no real evidence to suggest that. And it has trickled down through the countries, the world, the government, and you can see racism absolutely everywhere.
What does it look like? I haven't seen it. What does it look like?
Well, certainly with law enforcement, it looks like being a lot tougher on people of color than it is on white people. And that is where I step in because as a recovery advocate, I know what we've done to people of color. And I've gone into those jails and I've sat with them. And I have sat in rooms where there were women who did lesser crimes than I when I was an active addict who were in jail and I was not. So
Amazing.
you know, I know for sure that when it comes to law enforcement, and I'm not anti-police. We need police. If there were no police, there would be anarchy.
Look what's happening now. We have no police. We have anarchy in our country.
Exactly. So, but I do think there's racism, and I think it's actually up to people who are in the public eye to do things that will help it.
How about you, Leslie? You believe racism exists?
Yes, I do.
And what's the proof of racism for you?
Well, the same things that Lindsey just said. I don't have anything else to add. I think that people of color are treated differently from people who are white. I think there's a lot of hatred in the world. And I think that this racism or one kind of people conquering another people has gone on since the beginning of time.
Really?
So yes, it has. Slavery and all of that.
And I've heard from classmates that I grew up with that, you know, like a black guy I grew up with, I saw a post he wrote that when he was in college, and this guy went to the same fancy prep school I did in New York City, that he was carded every time going into his university while all of his white friends weren't. So if that doesn't say it all, I don't know what does.
Let me ask Leslie, and then I gotta move on here. I'm right out of time. Leslie, if the blacks didn't break laws and when they're stopped by the cops, if they were to do what all normal people do is put their hands on the steering wheel, show their IDs, and if they didn't commit the crime, would the cops have to treat them in a tough way? If they were not committing the crimes, if they were following the instructions of the officer, would the officer have to treat them any differently than they would anyone else?
Well, that's a very complicated question because one of the things about law enforcement is that law enforcement have been given more military equipment for dealing with people, right? So they're going out, they've got tasers, they've got all kinds of things that they didn't used to have before. And so they're treating people in a more adversarial way than they used to. But I think where you're going is that people are breaking the law, and often where officers are in certain neighborhoods, they are afraid for their lives.
Yes.
And they deal with certain parts of the population. They're angry. They have a lot of anger and they have a lot of fear, and they start throwing people around because they're trained to be military and they're seeing something that they don't like or cause them.
So they need the tasers and the rocks and everything to protect themselves from the people overreacting, right?
I don't know because I'm not in a cop car anymore. So, I'm not there, and I don't know if the cops treated people in a different way, whether that kind of force would be necessary. So
which do you think was the worst thing that ever happened to the blacks? Was it slavery or the civil rights movement?
Is that a real question?
I think it's
yes.
Slavery.
Slavery.
Why do you think that?
Because one kind of people doesn't have a right to, one person doesn't have a right to own another person.
And why do you think slavery was worse than the civil rights movement, Lindsey?
Well, look, I don't want to say something I don't know too much about. So I don't understand all of the complications of the civil rights movement. So, I think fundamentally, and we're coming from this, like, from the Holocaust. That's the closest we can relate to this, is anti-Semitism, right? So our people were packed up, thrown in gas chambers, and gone on for hundreds of thousands of years with Jews as well. So what I can say, what I know from that is you cannot terrorize a people and think that it's going to be okay. For them, for the generations ongoing. We talk about generational trauma because there are women my age who are dealing with issues that come from a grandmother who got caught up in Auschwitz. So I don't know about the issues around the civil rights movement, but I would say anytime you go and do something that savage and unspeakable to any race of people, there are going to be effects that are forever.
The worst thing that ever happened to the blacks other than abortion was the civil rights movement. And I tell you that I grew up on a plantation down in Alabama. I remember the Jim Crow laws, the black and white signs, and we had to work the cotton field. Have you mentioned the, what's the thing? The thing that happened to the Jews?
The Holocaust.
Holocaust. When the Holocaust was happening, were you guys picking cotton?
No.
We had to pick cotton.
Yeah.
And pick cotton in the hot fields and everything, right? But yet, the blacks and the whites got along because they knew it was a spiritual battle and that it wasn't about the color, it wasn't about male or female, it was about those who returned to the Father on the side of love and those who had anger on the side of evil. It had nothing to do with color. And we were all taught on both sides to treat each other the way that we would like to be treated, and they did. The civil rights movement came along with Martin Luther King and all those traitors, and they told the blacks, the white man trying to keep you down, is racism, is this and that, and we want to be your leaders. Stop following God, stop following your parents, and follow us. And they sold the blacks to the Democratic Party because at that time there were no black Democrats, it was only Republican blacks. Republicans, right? Everybody I knew was Republican. And they sold the blacks, and they told them that your problem is not spiritual. Your problem is racism. It's a made-up word. And so the blacks started blaming the whites, and it's been downhill ever since. It had nothing to do with racism at all. It was spiritual, and it still is today. It's spiritual. It's not physical at all. And so what do you think about that?
I'm going to think about it. It's an interesting point of view. Yeah, look, these are things we haven't thought about. So
I understand that.
Interesting questions.
Yeah. So I got to put you on the hot seat. I need you to answer these questions as quickly as possible, all right?
Sure.
Okay. Anybody there?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're here.
Oh, okay.
The hot seat.
Leslie, I start with you. What is a man?
I can't answer that question. I'm not going to these questions.
Leslie, what is a man?
I can't answer your question.
A man is the male form of the human species. He traditionally is the hunter and gatherer and the protector of the family.
Leslie, should men be allowed to play in women's sports?
You know, I haven't made a decision about that. I probably think they shouldn't, but I'm not, I probably think, I mean, I don't know what you mean by women's sports. Are you asking, should they play on a woman's baseball team? I mean.
I need you to answer these as quickly as possible. Leslie, should men be allowed to play in women's sports?
Sure.
I'm sorry?
Sure, why not?
Sure. Leslie, should women be allowed to play in men's sport?
Why not?
Okay. Leslie, is our borders currently under invasion?
Are our borders currently under invasion?
Yeah.
No, I don't believe so.
Leslie, should we put a wall around our borders?
No.
I'm sorry?
No.
No. When I become president, I plan to ban all computers. Do you agree with that policy, Lindsey?
Yes, and I'll vote for you in this election.
Yes.
Leslie, do you love white people?
Yes.
Leslie, do you love white people?
Not all of them, no.
You're supposed to love everybody, Lindsey.
I love everybody.
Everybody. You love everybody.
Thank you. Leslie, which do you prefer, cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Leslie, do you believe in the climate change?
Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Leslie, is the earth flat or round?
It's round.
Leslie, was Jesus white or black?
He was Jewish.
Leslie, have you ever told anyone how the cow ate the cabbage?
No.
How about you, Leslie? Have you ever told anyone how the cow ate the cabbage?
No.
Leslie, do we need more white babies?
Oh, God. Why not?
Yes.
Nice. Leslie, does a chicken have lips?
No.
No.
True or false, sending your kid to public school is child abuse?
False.
I'm sorry?
False.
Both of you say false?
False.
To send your children to public school today is not child abuse?
It has a lot more dangers than it used to. But I don't think all public schools are bad.
Really?
Uh-oh.
We don't have to agree.
That's right. Leslie, do you support, are you for or against abortion?
No one is for abortion. No one. No one is for it.
How about you, Lindsay? Are you for or against abortion?
Do I want, I'm for abortion.
You for abortion?
No, Lindsay, you're not for abortion. You want
you
people
can't
to be
speak
able
for
to
her,
make their
Mama.
own decision.
Mama.
What?
You can't
I want
speak.
people to be able to have an abortion if they need one.
And how about you, Leslie?
I feel the same way. Nobody is for abortion, but I do believe that if someone needs one, they should be able to have it.
Amazing. Thank you all so much for coming on. That was so much fun. I do appreciate it. And thank you for taking on the hot seat. Tell the folks how to get your book, how to your website, whatever you want to put out there.
Okay, so you can find us at reachoutrecovery.com. That is our website, and we have tons of wonderful articles on all kinds of behavioral health. The book is called The Mother-Daughter Relationship Makeover, 4 Steps to Bring Back the Love, and you can find it anywhere books are sold. And you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Lindsey Glass, Leslie Glass, Reach Out Recovery.
And I forgot to ask, did you have fun?
Yes.
We had so much fun.
So much fun.
Amazing. I really wish you guys well. And the next time the blacks or anyone tell you that they're suffering because of racism, they're lying to you. Don't fall for it.
Okay. You
All
got
right.
it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Oh, don't forget, folks, check out support The Fallen State at TheFallenState.com/donate. Click in the link, go to locals.com to support our work. Like, follow, ring the bell, subscribe, and check out our merch. We have amazing merch. So thank you all, and again, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye now. Nice.